You're listening to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast brought to you by Nottinghamshire Live.
Hello and welcome to Garibaldi Red, Nottingham Forest podcast from Nottinghamshire Live. My name is Matt Davies, hosting as ever, and we're joined this week by former Red striker Nathan Tyson. Nathan, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. How are you getting on?
Yeah, good. Getting along fine. Just enjoying time with the family and stuff. Just plugging away as normal.
Well, thanks for joining us. We're streaming live on Facebook as ever, so do get your comments and questions in for Nathan, and we'll put one or two to him about his Reds career. Obviously, we're going to talk extensively about your time at Forest, but I wanted to start off just by asking you about your early days in football. Obviously, I remember watching you when you joined Forest. You were ridiculously quick, and I imagine you probably still are. But when you were a kid growing up playing, under 9s up to under 16s, I imagine you scored tons and tons of goals because you were that much quicker than everyone else. Was that the case or not?
Earlier on, yeah. So obviously starting up, I think it started up at 8 years old. My dad wasn't really expecting it. And then he saw me play my first game and I scored a hat-trick. And he was like, oh my God, here we go again. Because my older brother was on the scene playing for Wimbledon and Plymouth and places like that. So yeah, I think the most goals I scored as a kid was like 62 goals in the season. So, but obviously the older you get, the higher you get, the harder it gets. So it's, it was good times. Probably enjoyed more playing football as a kid than I do generally now, really. So
when you were that good as a kid and you were that quick, was it a case of your brain having to catch up with your body in a footballing sense in terms of the actual game itself, touch, technique, not being offside, that kind of stuff? Was that your main challenge as a boy growing up?
You just learn the game. You always back then you always worked on your strongest attributes, not so much your weaknesses and stuff. So all my coaches that I had coming through, they always just said, look, just use your pace. Don't. I remember playing for, there was a team called Wokingham Town, and I got called into their reserves. I was 14 years old and I'm playing against grown men. And one of the captains said to me, look, make sure you do not go anywhere near them because they're just going to chuck you off the pitch. Back then, 2 foot tackles were legal back then. So, they used to rugby tackle me, everything and that. And it was, I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge and stuff, but I could just run past these older blokes and, leave them for dust and stuff, and just really enjoyed it. It was a good challenge, but, you're never going to get 14-year-old playing in the first team these days. So it was definitely, the start of something for me. So I always knew that I just needed to keep away from the bigger blokes or put myself on the slowest defender and just blitz them as much as I can.
Let's fast forward then to when you joined Forest. How did you end up there? Because I remember you were banging goals in for Wickham. I guess there was quite a lot of interest in your signature. How did you end up at the City ground?
You know what? Me and my agent were on our way up we went to Sheffield Wednesday, and we had a meeting with Paul Sturrock at the time, and I was like, oh wow, Sheffield Wednesday, big club. Thinking, massive ground and everything. And Sky, they were playing that day as well. So I was going to be, there signing the contract and sitting in the stands watching the game. And Sky were going to do a big bit about it, X, Y, and Z. But I just didn't get the vibe from Paul Sturrock. I thought he came across a bit negative towards me. And I thought, something don't sit right with me. And my agent said, look, you don't want to do it, do you? And I was like, no. But then on the drive back, as we're driving back to my car, Gary Megson phoned my agent and said, look, bring him here. We want him. And that's how it came about. And I thought, wow, Nottingham Forest. So I can't remember, I think it was like a week later or a couple of days later. I can't remember, a long time ago. I remember coming up to the City ground. As soon as I walked through the door, seeing the European Cup trophy and seeing the grounds, everyone made me feel very welcome. And I just thought, you know what, this is me. This is a bit of me. This, and even though it was only a league up, I just thought, I can do something here, and this is where I need to be in my career, to come here to a place like Nottingham Forest, and just walked through the door, and Gary Megson was there. He made me feel very, very welcome. So I was delighted, and I thought, yeah, this is the right club for me.
What kind of club were you walking into then? Because Megson isn't fondly remembered by Forest fans for his time there. Results weren't great. What was the dressing room like when you walked in?
It weren't great. It was fractured like hell. If it was a broken leg, it would be unrepairable. Well, should I say almost unrepairable? But it was definitely. There were definitely cliques in the changing room. You had the younger lads like James Perch, Wes Morgan, Spencer Weir Daly. They were involved, and then you had the older lads who pretty much, I think, Gary Megson just couldn't get in charge of them, and it was just a very fractured dressing room. I come from a dressing room at Wycombe where it was great to be around. You had the experience of Rob Lee, Tommy Mooney, etc. And then you come to Nottingham Forest, and you have, players that didn't want to be there, and the fans getting on top of them and X, Y, and Z. And I just thought to myself, wow, this ain't great. But I've got to now use this as a stepping stone to get to where I want to be, if need be. And I just felt like it was just completely fractured. But I think Gary Megson, he tried his best, but maybe done it in the wrong way, because the club got relegated the season before. Is that right?
Yeah.
And when you're going into an environment like that, there's that losing mentality already settled in, and players that didn't want to be there. I think Marlon King had just left as well, and it was definitely a bit of a cesspit at the time.
What was Megson like then to play for? I mean, I don't remember the football being good, but that doesn't make him a bad manager. What was he like to work for?
It was good for me. It was good for me. He had a lot of confidence in myself. He thought that bringing me in could, turn games on the head. I could make something out of nothing, which I was doing at Wycombe anyway. And so he brought me in, and he was giving me the confidence that, look, you're going to play week in, week out, and X, Y, and Z. And I don't think some of the rest of the lads, some players, especially in similar position as me, I didn't feel like they wanted me there, to be honest. I'm kind of stepping on people's toes coming in, but I got along with Gary Megson, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have spent 5 years at the club. So be it. But I got along with him well. If he liked you, he liked you. It doesn't stop from him giving you a bollocking at times, but if he didn't like you, you'd know. But he was definitely a ranter and raver in the changing room. I tell it now, but I don't have a bad word to say about him. He treated me with respect and care, and trusted me in trying to do the best job possible for the team.
I'll just read out a couple of the comments that have come in. If you were worried you might get a bad reception, you haven't. There's one here just saying legend, another one saying legend, and there's one here from John Michael White saying that your signing actually made the club enjoyable to watch again for a while, and you'll always be special for that. And you'll be pleased to know there's quite a few comments about waving a flag in Robbie Savage's face, which we'll probably come on to in a bit, I'm sure, as we progress through. When did the tide turn then in terms of a United dressing room? How did that come about, do you think?
I think to be honest, when Gary Megson left, you just saw everyone it was like a lot of players there, just the weight come off their shoulders. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, you really didn't like him that much. And everyone just thought, right, okay, we're going to make a go of it. And, Frank come in and Charlie come in, and they did a fantastic job. And I thought that they deserved to get the job permanently after that season, because we weren't actually that far off from reaching the playoffs that year. We turned it around, but it didn't materialise, and you just, like I said, you just saw a lift come off the players, lads, and it was just like freedom, enjoying football. Training changed. It wasn't so manic. It was enjoyable, and I think when you have a manager that is as intense as Gary Megson, the reverse effect is to make sure that players are coming in and enjoying their place of work and enjoying what they do, and just a lot of the players just felt that, and results started coming in. They started tumbling in very, very fast.
Yeah, I remember that time with Frank Barlow and Charlie McParland in charge, going to a few games myself, and you were winning them all. McParland kind of always, even watching, terrified me. He looked so intense. Was that a kind of a different balance then? Were they kind of a yin and yang in that short time they were in charge?
Yeah, they definitely were. I mean, Frank would put your arm around you. Charlie would he would give you a bollocking, but it was in a positive way. It wasn't the fact that he wasn't effing and blinding at anyone. He just knew what he wanted, and he knew how to get the team going. He came in there with a calm voice and just said, "Look, I'm different. This is how we're going to do things. Until someone comes in, or if we get the job or whatever." I think Charlie was very, very disappointed that he didn't get the job full time. At the time, I thought they might have made a bit of a mistake there, but things slowly, quickly changed after that. So it was definitely, at the time, it was what the football club needed, because I think if they didn't take charge, I think the football club would have been in a worse state than what it was.
What was it like when Colin Calderwood came in? I think I'm right in saying he made quite a few signings and changed the nature of the team a fair bit. Was that a positive time? Did he hit the ground running and did the players embrace him quickly?
He came in the first day. He came in. We had a meeting upstairs above the Robin Hood suite, and he had a big board, paper, and he said, "Put your name on here if you don't want to be here." And everyone's all like looking around at each other, and we were like, "Wow!" He came in with authority. He came in straight away. He said, "Look, I do not want players that don't want to be here," because I'm guessing the first time he heard about the changing room, he was kind of like, "Look, I do not want, there's players here that don't want to be here." So he wanted to call them out in front of everyone, in front of the team. Personally, it's something that I would never ever do. But one or two players did end up putting their name down. I'm not going to name names, but
put their name down. Oh my
God.
Actually
stood up and put their name down. So
what was the reaction to that? What was your reaction to that when players are so nakedly willing to put their name down on paper? I don't want to be.
I'm a laughing, joking kind of guy, and I just kind of was like, "Oh my God!" Like, has he actually just done that? And then I think another player. I don't know if it was one, but it might have been two. But I know definitely one that went up there, and I was just like, "Wow!" But we kind of had an inkling anyway. Stuff gets said in the changing room. So it was very interesting time. But Colin, he came in with a plan. He wanted to change the philosophy of the club, the changing room, and he'd done it. He'd done it in his own unique way. At times, I found him a bit difficult to talk to, especially going into his office and having a chat about, why I'm not playing or why I'm not involved, why I'm not starting X, Y, and Z. And he, to be fair, he kind of beat around the bush, but he got to the point. And then you can't take it away and you work on it. But he was a lovely guy, and the rest of the staff were absolutely fantastic. They just changed things around and it made it more positive. They just took bits out of what Charlie and Frank had been doing and just added to it. And it worked. We got to the playoffs that season. Unfortunately, we didn't go up, but the following year was, far the better year, really. One of the better years I enjoyed at Forest.
Yeah, it was kind of that time was a case of two Yeovils, wasn't it? There was the playoff game and then the second one. I mean, if we get the playoff game out the way, what happened there? What are your recollections of it? Because it was such a disaster for the club at that point. What went wrong?
Well, I was out. I'd ruptured my knee, my medial ligament, and tore my hamstring tendon off the bone. So, I was devastated to not be involved. But it was just, I think we might have just been a bit overconfident because we won the first leg comfortably, and then the second leg we weren't expecting it. People were already talking about how they're going to get to Wembley. People were talking about hotels in Wembley. People were talking about, we got these banners, we got this champagne in. We're going to Wembley. We hadn't even kicked a ball for the second leg yet, and everyone's all like thinking about, we're going to the Championship. They didn't even. They just thought that we're going to beat Yeovil easy, and then whoever we have in the final, we're going to beat anyway. We're going to the Championship, and I just thought that was the wrong way for the football club to come. There were staff members at the time going around saying to certain players that, yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. If you want your parts to come, we'll sort them out with like this hotel and X, Y, and Z. And I'm hearing these things, and I'm injured, and I'm like, look, that's great. We still got a job to do, and unfortunately, Yeovil were the better team on the day, and that thoroughly deserved their success that year.
Did you watch the game at the ground or at home, and could you see it getting away from the team as you were watching?
I watched it at the ground. I was at a leg brace and crutches and X, Y, and Z, and the abuse that Wes Morgan got at the end of the game was disgusting. I thought that was uncalled for. People were saying that he was at fault for whatever, but I just thought it was uncalled for. I actually got someone had my number, and racially abused me on the phone. And I wasn't even playing. So it was disgusting on that front, really. But what don't kill you makes you stronger at the end of the day, and we definitely set out the following season to put that right.
What happened? Can I ask what happened with the racial abuse then? Because was that rare then for you coming through your career? Because it's in the news now, but there was a time where we thought that had been squashed out of the game. I mean, did that happen a lot to you or not?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Even when I was at Wickham, I remember playing Shrewsbury away, and I got racially abused. And a steward come up and told me. I didn't even hear it, and he told me, and he told me what he said, and I was like, wow. You hear it quite a lot. I remember going to Millwall for the first time when I was at Reading. This guy, he had his two kids with him in the stand, and he just wouldn't shut up. Every time I was going out for warm up, and he was racially abusing me, like point blank. And then I think it was one of my teammates who was warming up with me told Alan Pardew, and Alan Pardew said, "No, get him in." And he said, "Look, just sit here, don't get warmed up. I'm not going to bring you on." Cardiff away, Boxing Day, I had bottle tops thrown at me. I think it's more of the fact that I've been on loan at Swansea. I think the season before. They were chucking coins at me and calling me all kinds of racial names and that. And then growing up as a kid as well, I remember players racially abusing me. The area that I come from is not very diverse. It wasn't very diverse at the time. And I was like one of mixed race player, black player at my school, and in my team as well. So I was targeted that way. But my dad's, who's white, and my mum's black, they deal with it in a different way. My dad would always say to me, "Prove them wrong. Prove them that. Show them how good you are. Absolutely, just score loads of goals. And it will shut them up." My mum, different. She wants to fight everyone, man or woman. She don't care. So I kind of learned. You grow up. In my time, you grow up with it. Now, now we're so diverse now, but with social media, it's just another platform for everyone out there that can get their hands on and start abusing anyone that they want, and that's not right.
What would you say to your kids then? I know you've got kids. I don't know if they're boys or girls or if they play. I mean, what would your message to them be? Because I'm like a middle-class white guy who's never had to deal with any of this. I mean, you're a father. How would you tell your kids to deal with stuff like that? Because it's obviously not on at all, is it?
Yeah, I've had that conversation. I mean, my twin daughters are 18 now. Beth does play now and then whenever she wants. It's so different. I guess in the women's game, it is different. I've had the conversation and said, look, if something happens, you've got to tell the ref. If the ref don't do anything about it, tell your coach. And if you feel like you want to walk off the pitch, then do it. Tell your teammates and say, look, I'm not playing under this. My son, my oldest boy, he don't play football anyway. He's more into his gaming and stuff. But he's too intelligent, to be honest. I've had that uncomfortable conversation with him. Not all police officers are bad, but if you do get stopped by the police, because I've been stopped many times through my life, if you do get stopped, and I've told him how to, know your rights, be polite, speak calmly, and then just make sure you get the number off their back, off their shoulder, ask them for their name, and then you can file a report in. And if anything was ever to happen, if you ended up at a police station, don't say anything until you've spoken to myself or your mum. So, you have to have that uncomfortable. But I think with what's going on now, I think it depends on where you live in the country as well. If you live in South London, stuff are a lot worse than what they are up here. I just always say to my kids, just make sure your nose is clean and you're not getting involved in any stupid stuff. If any worries, you phone me and let me know. And I've got my youngest son who's, he's 18, 19 months. So we've got a long way yet to have that conversation. So, but it's just different times. I mean, when I grew up, it was daily. It was daily. The only thing I get now is if I'm walking down the street and I'm in a tracksuit, I notice people cross the road to avoid me. So that's the sad fact of it. When I used to catch a train quite a bit, when I was going up to Scotland and X, Y, and Z, if I sat on a table of 4, I would sit there and the rest of the train was packed. No one would sit next to me. It's kind of sad like that. But there's a lot that needs to be done. It's just education. Change is slow, but everyone needs to do their part and play their part in making everyone equal in a sense.
Yeah. It feels a bit trivial turning it back to football, but I think
that's all right.
There's no good way to do it, so I'll just pile back in. So we go back to the next season then. You've got the big disappointment of losing to Yeovil. What was the club like picking yourself up after that and going again? And obviously you did get promotion in the end, but it must have been a tough few months for the team after the playoff defeat for Yeovil.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, like I said, I was focused on getting myself fit. I don't think I got fit until October time. I think I was 5.5 months out. It's the longest injury I'd ever had, and still to date. But the lads were very confident. Everyone was like, right, okay, we know what we've got to correct this. We know what we need to do. The management brought in certain players as well that added to the changing room, and just the positivity in there just grew and grew and grew. You saw the quality that was in the changing room, and there was nothing stopping us really, just by ourselves. It was ours, ours to lose. So that season for me, we did what was asked of us, albeit we didn't win the title. That would have been nice, but we had some good teams in there. Swansea decent, very, very decent. And Donny were as well, and Carlisle, you know, they were a bit of a shock. So, you know, us and them three teams, you know, it was good, very good competition. You know, you have people scoring goals left, right, and centre in their teams, and it was, you know, it was really good, good year, tough year, but it was good.
The run-ins that season, the last few games, it was really intense because I think, was it Carlisle were way ahead of you and you basically needed to win all your last 6 or 7 games and you played all the teams at the top. What are your memories of that spell leading up to that famous last day of the season?
Yeah, I think it was, I remember we played Carlisle away and I'd had an issue with my back and it kept on locking up my hamstring. I kept on going for scans and it just wasn't showing anything. So I ended up having an injection in my back and managed to get myself fit. I remember playing Tranmere. Oh God, do you know what? My phone battery's about to die.
Go and get a charger.
I'm gonna have to get a charger in a minute. Yeah, so I blame my son because he keeps on wanting to watch Hey Dougie on the phone. Anyways, we just focused on what we needed to do. We were actually, to be honest, prepared to go into the playoffs. We were never thinking about we could make second place here. It was always prepared for the playoffs. We wanted to make sure that we had a good run into the playoffs. You don't want to go into the playoffs losing to, winning to, drawing to, whatever. You want to make sure that you win like 4 or 5 going into the playoffs. You want an unbeaten run, so you know that you've got the confidence there, and teams are going to feel you thinking, God, this team, like they've come into the playoffs on fire, and mentally you've already got them on the back foot. So we were thinking, playoffs again. This time we're going to Wembley. This time we're going to do it. So, but that all turned around, you know, all thanks to, you know, Carlisle and Donny dropping points, and obviously us, you know, beating Yeovil on the final day.
Do you want to go and get a charger, and then we'll talk about the final day against Yeovil? And I will.
Give me a second.
Okay. No. This is the first of the podcast. We've had people have to get deliveries from the door and things like that. And my daughter's here. I'm worried she's going to interrupt. But I'll just read out a couple of comments about Nathan just while he grabs a charger. Dan Allgood was his favourite player when he was younger. I think he was one of my favourite players when he first signed for Forest, and the speed he had in that awful Megson team. It was certainly good to watch him. Joshua Walker, always a red in our eyes. George Bark asks about going to Derby. We'll talk about that later. Ben Mulvaney asks about the Man City game, which we will also talk about in a bit. And where else were we going to talk about? Oh, yes, of course, the corner flag. I've already warned Nathan about that, which he's going to talk to us about. And finally, we've moved to Derby. About contracts running out. I think he's got a story to tell about his move to Derby, about what actually happened, because it wasn't quite as straightforward as we think in terms of being offered a new contract at Forest. And then we'll talk about what he's up to now and his plans for the future when he finishes playing at Chesterfield. I'm running out of padding time. I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm talking this long. Back.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah,
I did some good
double
padding.
check that I saw it.
I feel like the newsreaders when they're padding for when Boris Johnson's 2 hours late for a press conference and stuff like that. So no, it's fine. Don't worry.
Close the door.
No worries.
Oh God. I'm in. All set up now.
Let's talk about that Yeovil game itself. Then I was there, and I remember going into it thinking, kind of probably what you were thinking. You know, oh, we might win this one, but it won't work out for us. Could you feel the energy of the crowd and know what was going on in the game? Did you have a sense that actually things were going well for you elsewhere as well as on the pitch for you?
It was definitely. I couldn't understand what anyone was actually saying, and it wasn't until I can't remember the player's name. I think it might Terrell Forbes, centre half. Well, he was playing centre half at the time. He said, "Tyson, you know you're going up." And I was like, "No, not shut up, whatever." He said, "Seriously, you're going up. Can you not hear him?" And I was like, "No, I can't. I'm so focused on the game." But it was when I noticed it, I was just like, "Oh my, wow!" Like my ears. It gives me chills now just thinking about that moment, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, we are actually what's going on?" Because we didn't know, we was expecting. We never thought that Carlisle and Doncaster were going to be dropping points. We always thought that, okay, one of them's going up, more likely to be Donny. So they're playing Cheltenham away, but Cheltenham are fighting for their lives, and we just never imagined it. And when it was coming about, and the roar from the fans, wow! I've never experienced that feeling in my whole entire career. I can't. When people always ask me about that day, seriously, it was crazy. It was the best feeling I've ever had in football, and it was very emotional as well, because you're like, wow, like we finally achieved something. Reading got promoted. I was coming through then, and I even got a medal for that. I didn't even make that many appearances that season, and you see how everyone acts there, the celebrations and stuff there. And then I got promoted with Cheltenham at the Millennium Stadium in the playoffs, the old Division 3. And, that's all exciting. But this one it was on another scale. It was like we won the World Cup. That's what it felt like. Well, that's what I could imagine it would feel like. It was just, what a day. What a day. Yeah, it's
Do you remember what was it like when Bennett scored? Did the roof come off? Could you feel it was something special then? Because that was a hell of a goal to get them going. And did you feel then that it might be your day?
Seriously, in the way that this guy, I just remember the tackle. I remember the tackle. That'd be a red card. That would be a red card.
It would be now, yeah.
But that was Jules. That's what he did. He just, he will cut you in training. He don't care. Like, you could be best mates with him. He will 2-foot you in training. He don't care. But Jules was an animal. He was a fighter, and it's just a shame that he had the injuries that he did, because he could have played up, a high level. And to be honest, when he hit that shot, I'm thinking, has he just done that outside of the left peg? But that just summed him up. Nottingham born and bred, and he's just gone and done that. So he when that went in, I was just like, wow, game on. Good old Jules.
What was it like on the final whistle then? Because when Chris Cohen was on, he spoke about people on the pitch, the smell of beer he mentioned, and stuff like that. Could you take it in, or was it just a whole haze?
It was just crazy, because I remember the fans just all charging onto the pitch, and it was just crazy. Like, people trying to rip your shorts off and stuff like that. And I remember seeing my twin daughters at the time, and I'd give them a big hug. And that, for me, as a father, to have your children on a stage that you've worked so hard for to achieve something, and to be able to share it with them in that precise moment in time, just is what, for me, is what I wanted what I want my children to experience. So they know that when they get older and they achieve things, they can look back at this moment and say, "Well, I shared that with my dad." And for me, that's what makes it for me. Being able to share it with my family, share any success that I get, I always will share it with my family, to say, "Look, you don't understand that from where I come from, I was not the best player coming up as a kid. I struggled through my teenage years. Educationally, kaput. Like, I had no other options. But I pursued this career, and to have moments like that on that day and share it with my kids to say, look, if I can do this, then so can you. And no matter what walk in life you do, like me, a dyslexic kid, came from nothing, had nothing to lose. This is what you can achieve. This is what life's about. These achievements here. This is to me what being a professional footballer is all about. Those small, once in a lifetime achievements in your career, because there's so many lows in football, but there's very few highs.
There's a comment here from Cindy Carey Statham saying, I remember your cute twins, although if they're 18 now, they probably give you more problems than they did way back then.
Yeah, they definitely do. They're good girls, really good girls, and I'm blessed with them both. Blessed with all my children, to be honest. I'm very lucky, very, very lucky. And they're making it. They're starting to make their own way in life now. Obviously, hitting adulthood and stuff. And I give them the best advice that I possibly can. But thank you very much for that message. They were little terrors back then as well, actually. So.
You talk about sharing. You obviously shared it with your teammates. One of your teammates on the day was Junior Agogo, who's no longer with us. Sadly, died. I think it was like 40 or something. Really sad. I mean, what are your memories of him? Because you'd have played up front with him. What was he like as a player and a teammate?
Yeah, the guy never stopped smiling. I don't think I probably count on one hand the times that I've seen him not smile. Even. And most of them are probably because he wasn't in the team or starting. But he, after that, he just never stopped smiling. The guy, he was dancing around in the physio room, in the changing room. He was a happy guy. Loved the night out as well. So there's no doubt about that. But he enjoyed life, and to see, I spoke to Wes about him, because when you do leave a club, you do lose out of touch with players, and that happens in football. It happens in any walk of life, really. But I regret not keeping in contact with him as much as what I should, and that's the sad fact of it, because he did have an impact on my life in a positive way. There's still music that he used to play all the time, and I'd hear it now, and I'd just be like, wow, that's Junior, that is. So, God bless him. It's sad, very, very sad.
Are you still in touch with many players from your Forest days? And you played for a few clubs, obviously. A lot of players do. Are there any that you're still mates with from those days?
I still see, Aaron Davies now and then. I bump into Lewis. I bump into Chris. Probably not so much now because he's down at Luton and stuff. Kelvin actually phoned me in the summer, actually, talking about a proposition for me anyway. But so you just keep an acquaintance. I spoke to Wes a couple of times and that, but it's very tough. Like you said, I've played for so many clubs, and there's so many players that I've played with, to try and keep in touch with them. There's not enough hours in the day that I can speak to everyone. But you just keep an eye and stuff, and and see how everyone's doing, and you try and keep up with their lives and what's going on, X, Y, and Z.
There's a few more Forest bits I wanted to ask you about before we have to let you go. Obviously, one of them, the Man City game away in the FA Cup, which I think was the following season after you went up. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't have Aguero and Silva, but they did have Company and Zabaleta and Joe Hart and teams like that. That must have been a hell of a day, especially for yourself, scoring a goal. And I saw on the BBC website you got an average rating of 9.5 out of 10 and with a man of the match. So it must have gone pretty well for you on the day.
Yeah, it was. I think in terms of leading up to it, I was in contract talks as well. And I wasn't in a rush to sign anything, to be honest. And then I just remember, there was a change of management, Billy Davies coming in as well, but he didn't take charge of the game. So we just thought, I just remember something about Joe Garner then, but I won't go into details. But we were just there enjoying the day. We're going along. we're going to go and play some football. That's what it was. We're just going to go and play a game of football, and we're probably going to get pumped 6-0, but we enjoy it. And lo and behold, that wasn't the case. I think obviously when we got the first goal, yes, we thought, oh wow, like 1-0 up, okay, let's go. 2-0 up, and we're like, wow. But we were first half, we were just pinning them back. We were all over them, and I think that's when the second goal went in. We're thinking we can actually win this game. And then half time came, and then obviously Joe got the third as well. So it was a fantastic day. And then Mark Arthur come and spoke to me after the game and said, let's sit down next week and talk about a new deal. So yeah, it was quite interesting.
And then Billy came in after that. I've spoken to, as I said, Cohen before about Billy. I've spoken to Paul Anderson about Billy. They both loved him. What was he like for you? They talk about attention to detail. Is that something that you picked up on as well with Billy?
Attention to detail. Jeez, that guy was thorough. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And what a guy! I absolutely loved him. I loved working under him. We did bump heads a couple of times, but he gave confidence and faith in me, even though he played me out wide. And I told him numerous times, I think I must have gone in his office. Every time I think I went into his office saying, I'm not a wide player. I hate playing out wide. Why are you playing me out wide? But we had Ernie and we had Dexter at top, natural goal scorers. But, I was like kind of insulted. But he said, look, I want you to play out wide for me now. I need pace out wide. But he would chuck me in up top if we were a man down or we needed to stretch a team. He'd chuck me up there. So, but he was good for me. He was good for my career, to be honest. And he still to this day, there's stuff that he said in meetings and stuff that I tell people now, because he was right. He was right. Even though back then a lot of us thought he was mad, but it was a good mad. But he was right. And if I ever speak to him again, I say to him, Billy, you were right. So yeah, good guy.
He defended you after an incident with a corner flag, so I'll ask you about that now. I mean, what happened then, that game against Derby? You got in a lot of hot water for it with the FA, I think, at the time. What's your version of events?
Just being stupid. That's what it was. It was a heat of the moment thing. I remember Robbie Savage, doing it the year before,
with the scarf,
scarf and everything. And I thought, you know what, we beat them this year. Let's proper celebrate. I probably just took it over the edge a bit too far. The disappointing thing about it is when it starts to hit home, when you start to hear stories in the Derby end that, a little girl near enough getting crushed, and you just think, that's not me. When I look at it now, that wasn't me. It's not someone who I think the person that I am today. I just think I just got carried away with the emotion and the hype of the rivalry in itself. And I do regret it. And I've apologised for it. And I apologise to anyone. It's not sportsmanship at the end of the day. And that's something that, I pride myself upon, and I just let myself go. I got too caught up in the moment of, another player on the opposite team who thrives with that kind of stuff, and I shouldn't have got involved in it. And he just
Have you grown up a lot then?
Say again?
Have you grown up? Have you changed a lot over the years then? I mean, that was when was that? 11 years ago? You're 38. I think you're almost exactly the same age as me to the month. Have you changed a lot in that time? You look younger than me. Have you changed a lot in that time?
Yeah, definitely. You start to analyse life and the opportunities that you've had, some decisions that you shouldn't have made. So there's, I do believe you do have regrets in life, but as long as you learn from them and grow from them, you can become a better person as a whole. That was just something that was just childish and immature at the time, and but obviously there's a lot of Forest fans that really enjoyed it. So, but when people come and speak to me, see me on the street, I remember the flag waving, you're just kind of like, oh, God, like, I'm never going to live this down. But I genuinely didn't mean to like be anywhere near the derby at the end. I was just trying to get to the other side on the Brian Clough stand and run around, which I continued to do while it was all kicking off behind me. But yeah, it's something that I'm not proud of. But that's in the past now.
When you talk about regret, I don't know if regret will be the right word for not going up with Forest to the Premier League with that team that lost in the playoffs, because it wasn't, not completely in your control, obviously. But is that a disappointment in your career that you didn't get to go up with Forest, having enjoyed taking them into the Championship with the Oval game that we discussed? Is that a disappointment in your career even now?
Yeah. It hurts. It hurts now. We had 2 bites of the cherry, and the first one should have been the one, but we took our eye off the ball, just like the Oval game. We thought, it's only Blackpool. Yeah, they're pitched that they don't deserve to go in the Premier League. They actually don't deserve to be in the playoffs because their pitch is a beach, But we underestimated them, really did, and like it happened again. The whole Oval situation, it happened again. People are starting to thinking about hotels in London. Where they're going to stay. Who are they going to take to the match? What coach or who's doing the drive down to London to go and watch Forest play in the playoff final? And we hadn't even got there yet. And it just happened again. And you look back at it and you just think, that was our opportunity. That was our best opportunity of going up that year. The following year, playing against Swansea, we feared Swansea. You could hear it in the changing room. People were saying, we don't want Swansea. We don't want to play Swansea. Because Swansea were a far better team at the time. Their attacking threat, and people feared them. And even in the changing room, we did fear them. We didn't want to play Swansea. We would rather have Reading, and I think it was Cardiff as well, I do believe. We would rather play them. So we were already on the back foot when we got the draw at home, but they went down to 10 men, and then obviously going down there, Billy made so many changes in the team. He started. I missed the first game, and he started me the second game. He said, "I need you fit." I'm having an injection in an area that was very, very painful for my groin.
Did you have a groin injury, shall we say? That? Yeah.
I did it in training. It was the stupidest injury. But it was an injury that it gave me so much chip the following year. It was. I had an injection in a certain private area that had to be done just to get me through the game. And I remember I blew up after 60 minutes. I put a cross in for Marcus, and I felt it click, and I thought I've done damage here. And I couldn't finish off the game, which is sad.
Was that your last game? I get my timeline right here. Was that your last game for Forest?
Yeah, last game, and it was heartbreaking to be honest. And what happened next was even more gut wrenching. But it was it made a certain decision a lot easier.
So how did you end up at Derby then? Because obviously that's not a popular move. I mean. Was there an offer on the table from Forest? Was there a lot of other interest, but it was right for your family to stay in the region? I mean, what's the story behind it?
So the story is Forest didn't offer me anything until I'd been speaking to Derby. If that kind of makes sense. They offered me a contract that would just be an offer, regardless of what the amount. It was always going to be an extremely low amount, but they just offered something just to say to fans, well, we offered them a contract. It could have been £1.50 a week. In their eyes, they have offered me a contract. But, I actually didn't receive the letter of the contract until after I signed for Derby. So they never once picked up the phone for me. I didn't know what was going on with Billy Davies. I didn't know what was happening. There was no phone call, no correspondence, no speaking to my agent, not even to my dad's, not even to me. I didn't know nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, my contracts, they didn't want me. So what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to wait around, and especially after a conversation that happened after the Swansea game, basically being told that, good luck, all the best. And everyone always said, everyone was all getting, unlucky, see you next season kind of thing. And that didn't happen with me. So I'm thinking to myself, well, this guy, you're taking the mick. And it wasn't Nigel, by the way, because I've got a lot of respect for Nigel. Love that guy. But so it all come about. And when Derby came about, it was like, well, one, I don't have to move anywhere. And two, I could stay close to my family, to my children. And, my first job is being a father at the end of the day. And I thought, well, that's the best opportunity for me. And I had one or two other clubs, but nothing materialised. So ultimately, I just had Derby on the agenda. I had nowhere else to go. So I'm not going to be unemployed. So I have to go and work.
Have you ever found out why, all these years later, why the offer from Forest was a kind of a lowball one? I mean, it was a bit weird that you were a regular first-team player and they offered you a big pay cut. I know money was, like Nigel Doughty was pumping a lot of money into the club, but did you ever get an explanation or not?
No. I knew what it was about. It was just, they just offered me a contract for the sake of offering me a contract. That it was a pay cut and a lot. And I thought to myself, well, this is, this is silly. Like I said to you, I didn't get this offer until after I'd been speaking to Derby anyway, pretty much after when I signed anyway. So it was kind of a case of, they just done it just to cover their backs with the fans, and that's all it was. Because if they really wanted me, if they really wanted to make an offer, they would have had me in, 2-3 days having that conversation with me. But after the Swansea game, I was, picked up my stuff and that was it. Nothing was said. So if you want someone, you're going to do what you can to want me, like how they wanted me when I first came to Forest. There was none of that. So it was pretty much left to your own devices, really.
I suppose my next question would be, what was it like with Forest fans after that, and how did Derby fans take to you? Because
sorry, I can't really hear you.
I say, what was it like with Forest fans after that and Derby fans? How did they take to you? Was it a strange relationship with fans after you moved to Derby or not?
So okay, I've only got the last bit there, so sorry.
What was the relationship like with Forest and Derby fans respectively? Did Forest fans fall out with you, and did Derby fans like you after you signed for them?
Yeah, I got abuse. That was that was going to happen. Got abuse from Forest fans. So somebody wanted to chuck my kids in the Trent and all that stuff. All the happy stuff and all that. So and I had a little bit of stick from Derby fans, but ultimately Derby fans were quite happy to see me there, to be honest. But I wasn't trying to get mixed up in all the politics there. I thought, right, okay, this is a clean slate for me. Somewhere that I thought at the time is the right move to has come about. But the hidden problem with me was that I was carrying this injury, and I maybe made that move too hastily. I should have maybe took the time to heal this groin problem, because it went away, but then it very quickly came back. And within a week of pre-season training, I was back in the medical room again, and with what looked like to be quite a serious problem, and it just wasn't going away. So I think, with the, Derby fans, they made me very welcome. Obviously, you have a small section that didn't really want me there, but that changed. That quickly changed, and the Derby fans were very, very, lovely people. I know Forest fans won't like me saying it, but generally they're just another human being that's just there to support the club, and they did look after me well. They did look, and it was I enjoyed my time, especially the group of lads that I had there. I enjoyed my time there.
Yeah, I mean, how do you reflect on your time with Forest then? Because you spent the longest phase of your career there. Was that the best of your career, or was it tainted a bit by the way you left?
I think it's like the best time. It definitely is. Going there on a Saturday, playing at the City Ground at home, near enough a full house, 25 to nearly 30,000 fans, and you don't really get that. I've not had that feeling, going to other clubs, especially, obviously going to Derby as well. There's just something about Forest that, for me, just made me feel at home. And it was just a shame the way that things ended. It didn't need to be that way. It just needed to be a conversation on the phone. And I might have changed my mind about a certain decision, but that's all in the past. So, it definitely was my best time. Well, one of the best times I had there at a club, and I definitely really enjoyed it.
You're still playing now, the latter stages of your career. I mean, why, in a way? Because there's no fans in the ground. You're 38 now. Is this almost the end for you, or do you think you've got a few more years left?
I set myself a target when I was 35, and I played with James Coppinger, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, this guy, he's the real deal. And you see other players that you've played against, they're in their late 30s, and I never thought I thought I'd be done and dusted by then. I wouldn't even make 35. But as the years roll by, you start to think, I can still do it, and you're going to clubs, you turn it up in training, turn it up in games and stuff, and you're thinking, why not? Might as well carry on. When I went to Wickham the second time round, we had still the only player there that was there the first time round when I was at Wickham was Matt Bloomfield, and he's still going. And you had Akinfenwa as well, he's still going. So we had like a lot of senior players, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep going, and the target for me is to play football professionally till the age of 40. If I can go on longer than that, I will. But I've picked up a bit of an injury at the moment, and if they keep coming, then it might be time to think about hanging them up. But I know how to overcome certain things, and it's just another obstacle. And I like the challenge. And I said to my wife, I want one more promotion, one more, and hopefully I'll get it in these. Whether it be this season or the following season, I don't care how I do it. I just want another medal. And that's, like I said to you, there's so many lows in football. I've had so many injuries. I've had so many people write me off, put me down, and you get negative comments from fans. But just for that one moment of winning the medal, that blows it out the window. So I want to keep going until I get that extra one. So, but 40 is the target, and if I reach 40, then that's 22 years as a professional footballer, and that's something that I'll be very, very proud of.
Are you a different player now? I guess you're not running 60 yards into the channels now. Are you a bit like, not comparing completely, but Vardy?
I'm still doing it. I'm still having to do it. I thought I'd be more of a Ryan Giggs role, coming into more of the midfield area, but clubs sign me, and they just look. I'm good at what I do, and that's stretching teams. It's running into the channels and stuff. Yeah, I've lost a couple of yards of pace, but I had a couple of yards of pace to give up, to be honest. So I keep myself fit and ticking over, and that's one thing that it's something that I just pride myself on, my pace, and I work on it. I do more gym work and everything, and to still be as quick as I am now at 38, I'm very, very grateful for it. I thank my mum for that. So yeah.
What will you do next? Have you thought about what you'll do when you retire?
Well, I was in the process of finishing off my coaching for the B license, but obviously lockdown happened. But I'm looking at other things. Look, there's one thing that I've learned throughout life is that the world's bigger than football, and there's always other things out there that you can explore. So there's things that I'm thinking about. Just might take my time into it, but I've got a couple of ideas at what I want to do, and potentially might want to fall back on. But one thing about football as well, if you stay in the game, you've built up so many contacts over your career, and I've met so many amazing people. It's something to think about whether I want to stay in it, whether it would be a scouting role or whether it would be a coaching role. It would be something that will materialise in the future.
Last question then. I remember watching you when you first signed for Forest, and I thought, he's going to play in the Premier League. He's going to really make it at the very top. Would you have taken this career that you've had if you were offered it again as a 16-year-old, or do you feel that you didn't quite fulfill your potential?
Sorry, mate. The sound's just gone again. My daughter's just tried to phone me here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm going to try. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Just cracking up on me. This is why I need to do it on the laptop.
True. I'll try once more time.
It's just all gone all crackling at the moment. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. I've only got one more question.
Right, now it's come back. There we go.
Good.
We're back. We're
good. Because it's good. It's a profound last question. I was really pleased with it, so I'm going to try one more time.
I see. It's just done it again. It's just like cracking, and I can't understand the saying. Right, let's.
Can you hear me now? I'm going to try one more. Can you hear me now?
No.
Don't worry. Right. I'm going to thank everyone who listened in, because I've come to my last question anyway. So thanks to everyone who watched along. I really appreciate it. There's lots of good comments for Nathan. If he can see, I'm going to put one up to show how people have enjoyed the podcast. Can you hear me, Nathan?
I can. It's clear. It's just gone clear now. I just hope it don't break up now.
All right. Let me ask this last question quickly, and Dan offered you to connect it there.
Oh God, it's broken up.
Not to worry.
Sorry,
We'll probably end it there, and we'll gladly get Nathan back on again to come on as just a regular pundit, talk about Forest today. Thanks for everyone who watched along. Do give us a good review and a rating. Apologies for the signal there. We had a really good hour's conversation. We'll be back next week as ever.